The phone rang at 4:47 p.m. just as Emily Carter was shutting down her computer and planning what she'd cook for dinner. She almost ignored it. Almost, but when she saw the name Daniel Brooks on the screen, her stomach tightened in a way she didn't fully understand. "Daniel rarely called after hours, Emily," he said when she answered, his voice calm but urgent. "I need a favor. The Denver client moved the meeting to tomorrow morning. Flights are limited. We have to leave tonight. We have to leave tonight." The words hit fast, leaving no space to think. Emily glanced at the empty office around her. Everyone else had already gone home. Outside the window, Chicago's skyline glowed with early evening lights. "Yes," she said quickly. "I'll be ready." She hung up and sat still for a second, heart beating faster than normal. It was just a work trip. She had done dozens of them. But this felt different. And she couldn't explain why. Daniel Brooks was her boss. 41, smart, controlled. The kind of man who always wore calm like a tailored suit. He never raised his voice. Never crossed lines. He trusted Emily with everything, meals, schedules, negotiations, but never with personal thoughts. Their relationship was professional, clean, safe. That's what made the nervous feeling in her chest so confusing. The airport was crowded, loud, rushed. Emily spotted Daniel near the gate, reviewing documents on his tablet. He looked up when he saw her and smiled, the polite, familiar smile she knew well. "Thanks for coming on such short notice," said. "Of course," she replied. Their flight was delayed by 30 minutes, which somehow made the wait feel heavier. They sat side by side, not touching, not talking much. Emily watched people pass by and tried not to notice how close his arm was to hers. On the plane, Daniel focused on work. Emily pretended to read, but her mind kept drifting. She thought about how she had memorized the sound of his footsteps in the office. How she always knew when he was stressed without him saying a word. How she felt proud when he trusted her judgment. She told herself it was admiration. Nothing more. Denver welcomed them with cold air and quiet streets. The hotel stood tall and modern, its glass doors glowing softly in the night. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of coffee and clean linen. It felt calm. To calm at the front desk, the clerk typed, frowned, then looked up. "I'm sorry," she said. "We only have one room left. 2 beds." Emily froze. Daniel blinked once. "One room." "Yes, sir. The rest of the hotel is fully booked due to a conference." Silence settled between them. Emily felt heat rush to her face. Her first instinct was to insist on finding another hotel, but something held her back. The thought of dragging their luggage through the cold at midnight felt exhausting. And deeper than that, she felt a quiet curiosity she didn't want to admit. "It's okay," she said softly. "We're both adults." Daniel studied her for a moment, as if making sure she truly meant it. "All right," he said. "One night." The elevator ride was painfully quiet. Emily stared at the glowing numbers, counting floors. Daniel stood straight, hands in his coat pockets, giving her space. The doors opened, and they walked down the hall together, the sound of their footsteps echoing. The room was neat and simple. 2 beds on opposite sides. A desk by the window. 1 lamp between the beds. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing wrong. And yet. Emily felt like she had stepped into unfamiliar territory. They placed their bags down carefully, as if loud movements might break something invisible. Daniel cleared his throat. "I'll take the bed near the window," he said. "Okay," Emily replied. They talked briefly about the morning meeting, logistics, timelines, normal things. Daniel checked his phone. Emily brushed her hair, feeling oddly aware of every small movement. When Daniel went to the bathroom to change, Emily sat on her bed and let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her heart was racing, and she didn't like that. She didn't know why. She changed into comfortable clothes and climbed into bed, turning off her side lamp. The room dimmed, lit only by the city lights outside the window. A few minutes later, Daniel emerged, dressed in sleepwear, looking less like a boss and more like a man. He avoided eye contact, dimmed the main light, and lay down on his bed. The silence grew heavy. Emily stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the heater. Her thoughts moved fast. She wondered if he felt this strange tension too, or if it was all in her head. She reminded herself of her career, her independence, her carefully built life. From the other bed, Daniel shifted slightly. "Emily," he said quietly, "yes. I want you to know. I respect you. I'd never want you to feel uncomfortable." Her throat tightened. "I know," she said. "Thank you." Another pause. "I'm glad you're here," he added, almost like an afterthought. Emily closed her eyes. That simple sentence stayed with her, repeating itself in her mind as the minutes passed. She became aware of his breathing, slow, steady. It made the room feel smaller, more personal. She turned on her side, facing away, trying to sleep. But sleep didn't come easily. She thought about how life sometimes placed people together at the wrong time, in the wrong situation with feelings that didn't ask permission. She wondered if this trip would fade into nothing or if it would leave a mark she couldn't erase. Outside, a car passed, its headlights briefly lighting the room. Emily finally drifted into a light, uneasy sleep, unaware that, by morning, the careful balance between her and Daniel would never feel the same again. The morning light poured through the hotel curtains, soft and golden, making everything in the room feel unreal. Emily Carter woke up first, tangled in her sheets, heart still racing from the night before. She wasn't sure if it was nerves, anticipation, or something deeper that made it impossible to breathe normally. Across the room, Daniel Brooks shifted on his bed, still half asleep, the quiet sound of his breathing filling the space. Something in her chest tightened as she watched him, so familiar, yet suddenly different, as if she was seeing him for the first time outside of the office walls. The meeting that awaited them could have been routine, but Emily felt a strange electricity under her skin, an awareness that every glance, every word, could carry weight she had never allowed herself to feel before. She reminded herself to focus on work, on professionalism. But as she brushed her hair and dressed quickly, she couldn't stop thinking about the small moment earlier when she'd caught him staring out the window. Tie loosened, hair slightly messy. He looked human. Not the unshakable boss everyone respected, just a man who had no idea that Emily had been silently noticing him for years. They walked to the client's office together, side by side, the distance between them both comfortable and tense. Emily felt every brush of his sleeve against hers as they passed through the hotel lobby, each step carrying the weight of unspoken words. At the meeting, Daniel was sharp, confident, persuasive, the Daniel she had always known. Yet Emily noticed something subtle. His eyes occasionally flicked toward her when he thought she wasn't looking. A soft warmth behind his usual professional detachment. It was a brief, fleeting glance, but it felt like an invitation into a world she had never been allowed to enter. By the time the meeting ended, the client was impressed, contracts signed, and congratulations exchanged. Colleagues would have called it a success, a routine business trip executed perfectly. But Emily barely registered the words being spoken around her. Her attention was consumed by the small, quiet moments, the way Daniel's hand hovered over a document a second too long before he passed it to her, or how he allowed her to finish a sentence for him, trusting her instinct as he always had, but in a softer, more personal way today. After the meeting, they returned to the hotel, walking in silence that wasn't uncomfortable. The air between them was charged, heavy with things neither dared to name. Emily's mind raced as they approached the elevators, remembering last night, the room, the silence, the way she had lain awake, listening to his breathing, imagining conversations that would never happen. She caught herself glancing at him, wondering if he felt the same restlessness she did, the same pull she hadn't acknowledged until now. Daniel stopped by the elevator doors. "Emily," he said quietly, and she turned immediately, her pulse quickening. He looked different in the morning light. Less like the untouchable figure in the office and more like someone she could almost reach. I need to say something before we leave." His voice was calm, measured, yet there was a vulnerability in it that Emily had never heard. Her heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked, though part of her already knew. "This trip," he began, looking at the window briefly, then back at her. It made me realize I depend on you more than I expected. Not just at work. I mean your presence, your support. Everything you do, everything you are. He trailed off, unsure if he should continue. Emily felt a surge of emotion, pride, longing, fear, and hope all rolled into one. She wanted to tell him she felt the same, that she had been feeling it for years. Quietly, carefully, always within the safe bounds of professionalism. But the words caught in her throat. "I know," she whispered. "I feel it too." He took a step back, a hand brushing lightly over the edge of the elevator panel. "That's why this is complicated," he said. "Lines exist for a reason, Emily. I shouldn't cross them. But knowing how I feel, it's impossible to ignore." Emily's chest tightened. "I understand," she said softly. "And that's what scares me the most." They stood there, a few feet apart, saying everything and nothing at the same time. No hands touched. No promises were made. But the honesty between them hung in the air, undeniable, shifting the world around them. It was the kind of silence that screamed louder than words ever could. The ride back to the airport was quiet but charged. Emily watched Daniel drive, noting the small gestures she had never paid attention to before, the slight furrow of his brow when he concentrated, the way his lips pressed together when he thought no one was looking. Each moment was magnified, and each glance shared between them felt like a secret held in a room no one else could enter. They arrived at the gate, luggage handled, boarding passes in hand. Daniel walked beside her, steady, composed, professional. But Emily knew something had changed. They weren't just boss and assistant anymore. Something fragile, delicate, and impossible had passed between them. It was a feeling that would linger, unspoken, haunting the edges of their daily lives. Back in Chicago, life resumed its normal rhythm: emails, deadlines, meetings. Colleagues noticed nothing. Daniel and Emily continued to work together seamlessly, as if nothing had shifted. And yet everything had. Every time Daniel passed her desk, there was a warmth in his gaze, a softness that was not there before. And Emily felt it too, the quiet ache of something unacknowledged, something that had taken root and refused to fade. Emily walked through the office halls differently now. She noticed the small details in Daniel's expressions, the subtle shifts in his tone. She remembered the hotel room, the quiet confessions, the vulnerability that he had let slip for a fleeting moment. It made her pulse quicken and her thoughts wander, filling her with both longing and restraint. For weeks, she replayed the trip in her mind. Every second of it: the hotel room, the shared silences, the morning light through the curtains, the words that had almost been said but were held back by circumstance and responsibility. It was a private story between two people who had never broken rules but had discovered the edge of their hearts in a quiet, stolen moment. Emily didn't speak of it. Daniel didn't mention it. And yet it shaped everything. Every glance, every small gesture in meetings, every shared coffee in the office felt layered with meaning now. It was a connection they could never name aloud. Yet it existed, undeniable and intimate, shaping the way they interacted without anyone else knowing. Time passed. Seasons changed. Projects came and went. Yet Emily carried that trip with her like a secret treasure. Whenever she passed a hotel at night, the soft glow of lights reminded her of that quiet morning, the honesty between them, and the delicate tension that had reshaped the boundaries she thought were fixed. She realized something profound. Some of the most powerful stories aren't about what happens. They are about what almost does. The moments that stay with you, unspoken, shaping your heart and thoughts in ways that no one else can see. That hotel trip, that quiet, ordinary night with Daniel Brooks had left her speechless. Not because of romance or scandal, but because it had opened a door she didn't know existed, showing her the depth of human connection and the intensity of feelings that can exist even in silence. Even now, months later, Emily still felt the echo of that trip: the warmth, the vulnerability, the unspoken words, and it reminded her that life was full of moments that could not be repeated, but could never be forgotten. She smiled softly to herself, knowing that she and Daniel had shared something rare, something that would remain between them, quietly profound, forever altering how she looked at love. trust, and the fragile lines between them. And every time she closed her eyes at night, she could almost hear him saying, softly and carefully, "Emily, you matter." That single phrase had carried more weight than any contract ever could, leaving her quietly, beautifully speechless.